I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Today, by your request, we're going to review Local Natives' Hummingbird, which is the second album from Local Natives. Now, Local Natives, I really had not been exposed to Local Natives before Hummingbird came out, and then a lot of people were talking about it. And on our YouTube wall, we got several requests, and on our Facebook page we've gotten several requests for Local Natives Hummingbird. So I want you guys to know that even though we didn't review this one right when it came out, it was you guys who actually selected that we were going to review this, for you. So I mean, by all means, if you guys have albums that you want to see us review from 2013, we're watching them, we're tracking them, and we keep a list of albums. And if you guys are talking about them, we prioritize it and make sure that it gets reviewed. Now, to get in the music of Hummingbird. Tom, how would you describe Hummingbird's sound? You know, it kind of sounds like wings flapping.
It's kind of more of a buzz. They flap their wings so quickly, right?
Anyways.
Okay, so this is definitely, that indie rock setup, guitar, bass, drums, vocals, very clean guitar. Right. Focused a lot more on kind of atmosphere, but along with those nice single note.
Yeah.
Kind of like the softer stuff you would have heard from Maccabee's album we reviewed a while back.
That's a great point. The Antlers too, something that you would see there where you have a lot of very clean, austere sounding guitar, but also with some good background atmosphere guitar as well.
Yeah, and actually the Antlers comparison I would carry on to the vocals as well. Absolutely. When you have that very soft but emotive falsetto singing a lot
something
of the time.
That was clearly a trained vocalist.
Yeah.
Very clean vocal sounding and just all around a good vocalist. The other thing I noticed about the sound throughout this album is that you have drums that are kind of bombastic at times.
I'm glad you said that. That's where I was going to go next too. The drums are the thing on this album that moves the most.
Yeah,
that's just a simple way to put it. And I mean, that's where a lot of the energy for these tracks come from, and where that foundation is.
Because without the drums, these tracks would be pretty damn lethargic.
Yeah, that's true. Because you just have the clean vocals, you have the clean guitar, the bass that isn't really overpowering, just kind of moves nicely with the song. But it's the drums that really I feel gives these tracks their flavor, and sets that mood and that energy for how it's going to move along throughout the song.
This record is just steeped in emotion and mood. That's what this is all about. And one of the things that I actually grew to like about this album is how it combines good songwriting, good instrumentation, and good emotional presence and mood. And that's something that I usually you see one or the other. You see a band favoring mood or emotion or atmosphere over at the sacrifice of songwriting. And these guys kind of do a good job of blending the two together. Now, Tom, did you and I have discussed this today. I have very different track picks on this album than you do.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
True. Why do I think that is? No, that's a loaded question.
It is totally a loaded question.
I think it just comes down to the fact that this is your kind of music. Naturally.
Very true.
But also because we're listening for different things. Yeah,
very true. I mean, this is my music. It's guitar, moody, lyrics about death. That's very much a Jay sort of music.
True.
But another thing that I've noticed is that that you're getting a lot of the instrumentation. There isn't a ton of these huge builds here. Whereas there's a lot of emphasis, a lot of the emotion is loaded into the vocals. And that's something that we've identified in previous album reviews, most specifically in Ring.
Now I see why you're going there with that. Okay.
So that's something we've identified as just a difference in how we listen to music. Is you go for more of the instrumental builds and things like that. Get a lot of the emotional resonance from the instrumentation, whereas I rely a lot more on the vocalist to do that for me. Now, one thing I want to make I want to register a complaint against this vocalist.
Okay.
This guy sounds like a choir boy. He sounds like a choir boy. I don't want a choir boy. If you're talking about death and losing a band member and like that loss and the emotional loss associated with people moving in and out of your lives for whatever reason, that's poignant emotion. I don't want to hear Pretty Boy singing. I don't want to hear it. And I feel like I'm getting a little bit too much Pretty Boyness here. I want a little bit more gruff. I want a little bit more actual emoting. It's good to sound. To project your voice and have good tone and have good vocals all around. But in general, I would want to see more emotion come out, and that takes a little bit of strength.
It's true. And there's a time and place for vocals like this.
Dynamics in the vocals.
True, because when you keep it that clean, it's hard to get the power behind it. But as I was saying to you earlier, I really feel like you can't convey emotion very well and stay that pristine and clean with your vocals, because what emotion that you feel is truly clean.
Right.
It doesn't matter what, whether it's love or hate or envy or anger
fear.
anything. Yeah, even the good emotions, they're not truly pure.
Yeah.
They have an edge and they have a unique personality, and that's what I want to hear shine through in a musical performance.
Yeah, this is just way too clean and vanilla. I mean, I really didn't, I really never felt like they established the right emotional warrant on this album, and I blame the vocalist for that. And in part, the way that the album was set up, because I think that, you know, I definitely favored the back half of the album, you know, with 3 tracks right in a row, actually 5 tracks. Really,
the last half is solid.
Yeah, the last half is very good. Starting with Black Balloons on, I feel like this album is absolutely excellent. Now, Tom, you and I both picked separate tracks in the beginning of the album, but I think all around you're going to find good songwriting on this album, and it might not be the most engaging or emotionally intense songwriting, which is why I think I like this one more than you did. However, they could have rearranged this album a little bit to establish the emotional warrant in the beginning, because I feel like the beginning of this album is just slightly hard to relate with. Like, they're being emotional, but why? You don't really care, and unless the artist gives you a reason to care, I mean, you're not going to, and so those songs aren't going to resonate with you as much, and you're going to just kind of disregard them. And I definitely feel like there's a few tracks in the beginning that I don't engage with as much, because they don't establish that emotional warrant until the back half.
Yeah, and the back half really does pack more of a punch with tracks for me like Mount Washington and Columbia, and then the last track Bowery was another good one as well. Yeah.
Now I gotta say, the track 10 Columbia, I think I think the United Way should make that their theme song.
Am I giving enough, Jake?
Am I loving enough?
Every night I ask myself.
Every night I ask myself, am I giving enough? Wouldn't that make a good United?
It's convincing.
I know. I'm gonna call him up and pitch him.
But also, that is one moment on the album where I feel like the singer is a little more convincing.
Absolutely.
And it really shows just how much I feel like he's not selling it on the rest of the album.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And there's even a big instrumental build on that song. So I mean, it's kind of the best of both worlds, and a good example of why what this band could do if they put all the pieces together, which is hit and miss on this album. Overall, I think that the quality of tracks. I also have listened to this album a lot over the past couple months, so I think I'm just really familiar with these songs. So I've grown to get over my problems with the emotional warrant, and just from familiarizing myself with every track. So I think I'm a little higher than you based on that too. But I'm going 81 on this one.
I'm going 72.
So this is a big disagreement for us.
Well, and to explain my point of view a little bit, I actually, you know, I think we're on the same page with a lot of our specific points. It's more just about how much they're affecting us. Because for me, it was more like I felt a lot of these songs sounded very similar. While I think if you pull any one of them, I think they're pretty well written. I think it does sag in the middle a little bit. There are a few tracks in there that I think just kind of interrupt the flow of the album. I find myself liking the first few tracks and those last few tracks a little better. But really for me, it was one of those albums that I appreciated from an intellectual standpoint, but that emotional disconnect really prevented me from falling in love with it, and it made a lot of these tracks just kind of wash over me when I was listening to it.
Yeah, and I definitely felt that way, you know, a few weeks ago, and then as I listen to this more, I'm starting to pick out things more that I like about it, and it has grown on me. So I think that this is a fair score to represent where this album was, or is in our minds, in our collective Velocities of Music brain trust. What did you guys think about this album? You guys have been asking about it. I'm really interested in starting a conversation, getting your guys' feedback on Hummingbird. So let us know. Leave us a comment at www.velocitiesofmusic.com. Or youtube.com/velocitiesofmusic. And as always, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and shoot us a line telling us what you want to see us review from 2013 or any other decade. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.